Imagine standing in the middle of a torrential downpour.
Right.
Like you are out in your garden, you're raking mud and wet leaves. You are completely soaked.
Oh, it sounds miserable.
Right. And your schedule is just a total wreck.
What?
But in that exact moment, you decide, you know what, this is actually the perfect time for a Zen walking meditation.
That is, that's next level.
Yeah. Well, today, we are looking at the journal of someone who does exactly that. We're talking about tracking your life down to the decimal point, not to stress yourself out, but to basically regain control when the world throws unforeseen chaos your way.
And it really shifts the entire paradigm, Instead of just being like a passive victim of a chaotic week, you kind of step into the role of a lead scientist in the laboratory of your own life, really. You start measuring the chaos to see where your limits actually are.
And that is the exact mindset of the source material we are diving into today. So, for this deep dive, we have a highly detailed, deeply personal weekly review published just yesterday, July 19th, 2026.
Hot off the presses.
It's titled This Week in Review, 2026 Week 29, and it's written by an author who goes by the name Ang.
And, well, calling it a journal entry feels a bit light, honestly.
It's understatement of the year.
Yeah, it's closer to like a structural engineering report on a human being. We are talking about sleep durations tracked to the decimal, specific macronutrient ratios, and, daily contributions to complex software repositories, all meticulously recorded.
It's intense. So our mission today for you listening is to explore the anatomy of a self-optimized life. We really want to decode how this author uses this relentless tracking to build, like, a fortress of resilience against daily chaos.
Because the chaos is inevitable, right?
Right. And we're going to see what happens when a highly structured system collides with the deeply unpredictable nature of reality. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the biological machine itself.
Yeah, the physical body is totally the foundational layer for this author. Ang explicitly notes that a proactive focus on health, well, it isn't about vanity at all.
No, not at all.
It's the core requirement for daily energy. It builds long-term resilience against illness, and it provides the raw physical bandwidth you need to achieve literally any personal or professional goals. If the hardware is failing, the software simply cannot run.
That's a great way to put it, because reading this health section, it's like staring at the telemetry data of a Formula One race car.
Yeah.
It's dense.
Yeah.
For instance, their sleep improved this week from an average of 6.1 hours to 6.7 hours.
Which is a solid jump.
It is.
Yeah.
But they know they're still feeling severely fatigued because of a string of, they call them unforeseen and overwhelming errands over the past 2 weeks.
And the tracking allows for a really fascinating biological irony to emerge right here, because they usually take pumpkin seeds and other sleep supplements.
Right, which provide magnesium and tryptophan, I think.
Exactly, to help calm the nervous system, but they actually stopped taking them recently.
Wait, I need to pause here. They were exhausted from 2 weeks of chaotic errands, but they note that falling asleep was actually easier without the supplements. That seems completely backwards to me. Like, if you're stressed, shouldn't you need the sleep aids even more?
What's fascinating here is the underlying physiological mechanism. So they were so physically drained from the constant motion of these errands that their body essentially bypassed the need for a biochemical nudge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the sheer physical exhaustion acted as a manual override, just forcibly shutting the system down for recovery.
Like unplugging the computer from the wall.
Pretty much. But because Ang is tracking the data, they realized that while falling asleep was fast, the actual sleep quality still left a lot to be desired.
Ah, so they aren't totally fooled.
Right. They don't fall for the trap of thinking, well, I guess I don't need my supplements anymore. The action item is to resume the pumpkin seeds to restore their proper circadian rhythm once all that errand-induced exhaustion fades.
That makes a lot of sense. They're also closely tracking physical pain and their daily steps.
Yeah.
They mentioned dealing with knee and back pain, which they're managing with massage therapy and a heat pad.
Keeping the machine running.
Literally. And their step count is holding incredibly steady at an average of 6,133 daily steps, even while traveling for all these errands.
That's impressive consistency.
It is. And get this, they're tracking their weight down to the hundreds, dropping from 70.45 kilograms to 69.40 kilograms. But and I really have to push back on this approach a little.
Oh.
Yeah, tracking your weight down to 1/100th of a kilogram while you're exhausted from a chaotic week. Doesn't that just induce anxiety? I feel like monitoring all this minutia doesn't actually make you healthier. It just makes you hyper-aware of exactly how tired and stressed you are.
That is the natural assumption. But the data actually serves the opposite function here. It removes the emotional panic from the equation entirely.
How so?
Well, when a normal person steps on the scale and sees a sudden drop of over a kilogram, the human tendency is to wonder if something is wrong. Like, is my diet failing? Am I sick?
Oh, true. You start spiraling.
Exactly. But Ang looks at that 1.05 kilogram difference and immediately, objectively, attributes it to normal water weight fluctuation. There is zero anxiety. The data acts as a diagnostic tool.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, it objectively proves that the heat pad is working for the knee pain. It proves that the exhaustion is just an anomaly caused by external errands and not like a systemic failure of their lifestyle.
I suppose that creates a nice buffer between how you feel and what is actually happening. Like, you can feel terrible, but the data says you're actually holding steady.
Precisely.
But knowing that the F1 engine is tired is really only half the battle. The other half is what fuel you're putting in the tank to compensate, which brings us to their highly specific diet. They follow what they call a 221 plants protein-carb diet.
And for context for you listening, that is a plate division strategy. It basically means aiming for 2 portions of plant-based foods, 2 portions of protein, and 1 portion of carbohydrates.
Right.
It's a way to systematically ensure high fiber and protein intake while, controlling the glycemic load from the carbs.
And they aim for 70% fullness, combining this with intermittent fasting. They adaptively eat 2 to 3 meals depending on their sleep schedule.
Very optimized.
Super optimized. But my favorite detail in this whole section is that amidst all this strict optimization, they express genuine joy over discovering a new, affordable, mixed rice stall that cooks well-balanced meals.
I love that part.
Right. Even a self-optimizing machine loves a good, cheap, local food stall.
It just grounds the entire experiment. They are out in the world running these errands and finding practical solutions. They mention wanting to maintain this diet, cook more self-prepared meals, and ensure they're eating 2 to 3 portions of sardines a week.
Sardines, nice.
Yeah, the inputs are highly calculated to support that biological foundation.
But keeping the engine fueled is only step one. I mean, the telemetry data looks great when the track is completely dry. But what happens when the race car hits a massive pothole, or, in Ang's case, a literal torrential storm?
Yeah, we have to look at how this rigid system handles real-world friction. Because a system that only functions perfectly on a quiet Sunday afternoon isn't actually a system.
It's a luxury.
Exactly. It's just a fantasy that breaks the second your life gets complicated.
And the friction for Ang this week was intense. Those unforeseen and overwhelming errands really took a major toll. You can actually see the edges of their routine starting to fray a bit.
Like their meditation habit?
Yes, their meditation habit, for example. They openly admit that their practice has drifted away due to habit. Instead of long, dedicated sessions, they're reduced to just 1 to 2 minute sitting sessions.
But notice the nuance there. They didn't abandon the practice entirely.
That's true.
Most people in a chaotic week say, well, I don't have 20 minutes to sit on a cushion, so I'll just skip it today. Ang scaled it down to the absolute minimum viable dose, 1 minute.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because they didn't just scale it down, they adapted the practice to fit the chaos. The author writes about engaging in random walking meditations while out doing errands. And better yet, while raking leaves and working with soil substrates in their garden. And they're doing this during heavy downpours because it's been raining for 2 weeks.
The visual on that is amazing.
That mental image is just incredible. A guy standing in a torrential monsoon, raking wet leaves, trying to maintain a Zen walking meditation because his internal operating system demanded it.
It perfectly encapsulates their resilience, honestly. Ang sums up their entire mindset in this section with a brilliant 3-word sentence. They just write, stoic as usual.
Stoic as usual. It's almost a badge of honor. Like, life is throwing back-to-back errands and rainstorms at me, but I am just going to stand here in the mud and find my center.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a masterclass in flexibility within a rigid framework. We so often assume highly organized people are brittle.
Oh, for sure. Like, if one meeting runs late, their whole day is ruined.
Exactly. But the system didn't break when life got busy. Yes, they completely forgot to go swimming because the unforeseeable errands caught up with them. And yes, the heavy rains hindered their larger gardening plans. But they maintained their step count. They kept up a 1-minute meditation. They managed to do some long pending gardening chores despite the rain.
They didn't just give up.
Right. The true value of a tracking system isn't achieving daily perfection. The value is preventing a total, catastrophic collapse when life gets chaotic.
The baseline holds. even if the baseline drops to the absolute minimum viable product, like 1 minute of silence and a plate of sardines it holds.
It does.
And because that physical baseline didn't entirely crumble, we actually get to look at what this person is building with their mind, the creative superstructure.
And it is almost counterintuitive. You would assume someone overwhelmed by errands and bad weather would just collapse on the couch and watch television.
That's what I would do.
Right. But because Aang hasn't allowed the chaos to completely drain their physical and mental reserves, their cognitive and creative output remains staggeringly high.
They are churning out content at a pace that is, frankly, dizzying to me.
Yeah.
The author is writing 3 posts daily. 3.
It's a lot.
They describe it as churning out notes on different indulgences and reflections. And they are doing this while acknowledging their busy schedule.
Their process for achieving that volume is definitely noteworthy. They explicitly mention using AI as a supplementary tool for proofreading.
But they're careful about it.
Very careful. They're highly conscious of the trade-off. They state that they have found the right balance to leverage AI for efficiency while fiercely maintaining their own voices, styles, and tones.
Which is so hard to do. If you've ever used an AI chatbot to help write an email and then spent 10 minutes rewriting it because it sounded too corporate and robotic, you know exactly the friction Aang is dealing with here.
Exactly.
They're using it to catch typos, but refusing to let it homogenize their actual thoughts. And they're still finding time to read fiction sporadically, too.
Though they admit they are stalled on a book about the 3 highs.
Oh, right. Which refers to high blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. Just another nod to their focus on health.
Always optimizing.
Always. But we have to talk about the coding output. Because in the same week, they are exhausted from errands, doing walking meditations in the rain, and writing 3 blog posts a day. They casually mention hopping through GitHub repositories and doing daily pull request contributions.
For those listening who might be unfamiliar, making a pull request essentially means you are submitting a proposed change or improvement to a public code base.
It's not a small task.
No, it requires reviewing existing code, writing your own, testing it, and submitting it for peer review. It is highly analytical work. And Aang isn't just doing this in one language. They list Go, Python, Elixir, Erlang, Rust, and Haskell.
See, I am genuinely struggling to comprehend that. This guy is acting like a one-man tech startup. How does anyone have the mental RAM to bounce between Erlang, Rust, and Haskell while writing 3 blog posts a day?
It's a very fair question.
From my understanding, those aren't just slightly different syntaxes, right? They represent entirely different programming paradigms.
Yeah.
It feels like trying to keep 6 different highly intricate board games set up on your kitchen table at the exact same time without knocking over any of the pieces.
That is a very accurate way to frame it. Switching from a functional language like Haskell to a systems-level language like Rust is cognitively heavy.
Yeah.
It's akin to trying to write a beautiful poem in French and then immediately drafting a dense legal contract in Mandarin.
Wow.
The syntax, the rules, and the entire philosophy of how you solve a problem change completely.
And they're doing this while updating personal pet projects like Python console tools. And D writing 3 blog posts a day. Are they secretly 3 people?
You gotta wonder. But really, this raises an important question about how we view productivity and hobbies in the modern era. Aang is actively managing their cognitive load.
By using AI for the boring stuff.
Exactly. They use AI to outsource the mechanical, draining task of proofreading text. But they fiercely protect the deeply human, highly cognitive tasks like coding in Haskell or finding their unique writing voice.
That makes a lot of sense.
In the intro to the projects and hobbies section, Aang states their philosophy really clearly. These activities are designed to build skills and create a sense of accomplishment. They provide a crucial outlet for learning, personal growth, and expression, adding purpose and satisfaction beyond daily routines.
So the coding and the writing aren't chores that sit on a to-do list. They are the reward.
Exactly.
They are the things that give the strict physical routine its actual purpose.
Yeah.
You optimize the diet and the sleep so that there is enough energy left in the tank to jump into a complex Rust repository at the end of the day.
By maintaining the biology, they unlock the capacity for high-level creative and technical output, even during a chaotic week. If you are exhausted from a poor diet and a lack of sleep, you simply do not have the neural bandwidth for Haskell.
Okay, I follow the logic. But even with a perfect biological baseline, we are still talking about a massive amount of varied interests here. I mean, coding in 6 languages: writing, reading, gardening, home improvement, fish keeping, and photography.
It's quite the list.
How does Aang manage this sheer volume of diverse hobbies without completely short-circuiting.
Well, the secret lies in a philosophy we can extract from the final sections of their review. It's the philosophy of micro-progress. It's all about pacing.
Let's look at the home improvement section as an example of that. Ang mentions doing lots of decluttering, specifically in the kitchen and dining hall. But they have this genius rule decluttering just one item per day.
Just one.
Yeah, they're specifically targeting those items we all have lingering in our houses. The ones categorized as, someday this may be useful.
And it's a brilliant psychological trick to bypass decision fatigue.
How?
If you tell yourself you need to clean the entire kitchen, it's overwhelming. Your brain rejects the task, especially when you're already fatigued from errands. But removing one single item per day, the barrier to entry is practically zero.
Right, anyone can throw away one old spatula.
Exactly. And over a year, that is 365 useless items removed from your environment with almost zero perceived effort.
So what does this all mean? To you, listening right now, thinking about that messy garage or that overflowing inbox, the decluttering one item a day rule is the ultimate anti-overwhelm tactic. It's progress that doesn't feel like work.
It really is.
And Ang is applying this same slow and steady approach to everything. They mention prepping for curtain installation and planning grout work on the front yard balcony tiles. No rush, just keeping it on the radar and taking tiny steps.
Knowledge is most valuable when understood and applied. And we see Ang applying this deep understanding of pacing in their fishkeeping hobby, too.
Oh, yes.
This observation is perhaps the most profound metaphor in the entire journal entry.
The cichlids, yes. So Ang is setting up a breeding tank for Crebensis cichlids. And they specifically note that they are taking their own sweet time with the setup.
Handling the LED light installations, sponge filters, and substrate replacements very deliberately.
Why? Because they discovered that this specific species of fish is highly susceptible to something called transfer shock.
Right. And biologically, transfer shock occurs when a fish is moved into water with vastly different parameters like temperature, pH, or hardness too quickly.
If it happens too fast, they can't handle it.
Exactly. The rapid environmental shift causes severe osmotic stress, which suppresses their immune system and can quickly become fatal. They need slow, incremental acclimation to survive a transition.
And that biological reality for the fish is just a perfect mirror for Ang's entire approach to human habits. We are highly susceptible to our own version of transfer shock.
You really are.
Think about New Year's resolutions. When we decide we want to change our lives, we try to overhaul our diet, fix our sleep schedule, start a new workout routine, and learn a language, all in the exact same day.
We throw ourselves into a completely new tank.
Yes.
The human nervous system rebels against massive, sudden changes. It perceives that level of rapid behavioral shift as a threat and triggers a stress response. Ang understands this intrinsically.
They really do.
In the gardening section, after noting how the heavy rains hindered their progress, they write a mantra that is the absolute core of this entire analysis. They write, slowly but surely, small incremental changes, if possible, on every day. Remember, just minor changes here and there to move forward.
Just minor changes here and there.
Yeah.
It is so forgiving, yet so relentless at the same time. And you see this exact same patience in their photography hobby.
Yeah, the macro shots.
Right. They are trying to get macro shots, extreme close-ups of tiny subjects using a new mobile phone's telephoto lens. But instead of just rushing out and buying an expensive dedicated external macro lens right away, they are taking the time to find the sweet spots of their current hardware.
They're navigating a very specific technological friction there. They note playing with the boundaries between the physical limitations of the lens and the software's default AI configurations.
Can you break down what that actually means for the photos, practically speaking?
Sure. Modern smartphone cameras rely heavily on computational photography. So when you try to take a macro shot, the physical lens is trying to capture real optical depth of field based on light physics.
Okay.
But simultaneously, the phone's AI software kicks in, trying to computationally identify the subject and artificially blur the background to fake a deeper depth of field.
Ah, so they clash.
Exactly. These two systems often fight each other, resulting in weird, artificial-looking artifacts around the edges of the subject. Ang is deliberately doing light photo walks while running their exhausting errands, taking the time to slowly test and understand this digital tug-of-war before committing to buying new hardware.
That are layering a hobby over a chore. I love that. The errands are exhausting, but they become an opportunity for a walking meditation, or a chance to test out a mobile camera lens, or a time to drop by the affordable mixed rice stall.
It's all connected.
It is. The chaos of life isn't an interruption to Ang's system. It is the environment in which the system operates. and the system survives because it relies on micro-progress rather than sweeping, exhausting leaps.
It proves that resilience isn't about being invincible or having a perfect week. Resilience is about knowing your baseline, giving yourself grace when external factors force you to deviate from it, and committing to the absolute smallest possible step forward, regardless of the weather.
So as we wrap up our exploration of Aang's fascinating week in review, the main takeaway for you is this. You do not need to code in 6 different programming languages.
Definitely not.
And you certainly don't need to weigh yourself down to the exact decimal point every morning to be successful. But you absolutely can adopt this philosophy of micro-progress. You can build your own resilience by scaling your habits to fit the reality of your day, rather than abandoning them entirely.
It's about honoring the intention of the habit, even if the execution is simply a 1-minute meditation while standing in the rain.
And that brings us to a final thought for you to chew on today. We talked about Aang's brilliant rule of removing one physical item from their kitchen every day, getting rid of the things labeled, "Someday this may be useful."
A great rule.
So I want to pose this challenge to you. What is the "someday this may be useful" item in your mental inventory? Is there an outdated worry you're holding on to?
Or a stalled project that is just taking up cognitive space.
Right. Or maybe a toxic habit you've kept around just in case. What mental clutter do you need to throw out today to make room for actual incremental progress in your own life?
Identifying and discarding that one mental item could be the smallest yet most profound change you make all week.
Something to think about the next time you find yourself caught in a chaotic storm of errands. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure. Keep making those small incremental changes. Goodbye.